Well, we got here WrestleMania III. Welcome to the Superdome. Or was it Silverdome? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the WrestleMania review series. We're getting into WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, one of the more infamous WrestleManias of all time. This was, for me, my favorite one out of the 80s, definitely. This was so much fun to watch, and it's not just for the two infamous matches that this show is famous for, but it felt big, it felt grand. 78,000 in attendance, the first stadium that was filled. It was just a sight to be said. It felt grand. Um, and the best part is that they really only sold it out of the main event, and the other stars that may or may not appear, they did a fantastic job of building this and putting this together. Um, they didn't overuse celebrities like they did at WrestleMania 2. They kept it simple but unique, and it was just a really brilliant way to put this together. Um, and then they had possibly the best, I don't know if Ray Charles beats it, but the best America the Beautiful of Aretha Franklin. It was just a fantastic show. Not everything was great. I will tell you that some of these matches were dull, but I really enjoyed this one, and I can't fault it for what it was. I really enjoyed it, and let's just talk about it. Um, the Can-Am connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zank beating Bob Orton and Don Morocco. I thought that this was a really good match. And yeah, I can't really fault it. This was a pretty solid tag team match. Like I've mentioned in the last two reviews, tag team matches were it back in these type of WrestleManias. So this was no different. Billy Jack Haynes beating Hercules, and it ends in a double countout. Not a big fan of this one. Double countout victories. Like I felt like, in order to make Bobby Heenan look strong, he should have had at least, you know, Hercules win clean or Billy Jack Haynes. I think like they just wanted to put these two together, and look where that's got him. No, neither one of these are in the Hall of Fame or even close to being popular. I bet some of you think I made those names up if you ask me. Hillbilly Jim, Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver beating King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Little Brook. This was, and they won by DQ, by the way. This was the worst match of the show. This was the first. Oh, what is this? They had little people fighting, which could be entertaining, but this wasn't. Um, and then there should have really just been King Kong Bundy versus Hillbilly Jim. King Kong Bundy beating, like, how does King Kong Bundy go from the main event of WrestleMania 2 to this? Is embarrassing. It's upsetting. King Kong Bundy isn't the greatest wrestler, but he is a legend, and he deserved way much better. Hillbilly Jim, he is a certified jobber. This is what his job should have been: jobbing out. He just looks like a jobber. And jobber's not even a bad thing. Brooklyn Brawler was the one who said, like, a jobber is the one who makes the other guys look over. That's how you yourself get over, because you're the type of person that was willing to put the other guys over. So Brooklyn Brawler gets it. Hillbilly Jim does not. Um, and then we get to the first solid match that I enjoyed. Harley Race beating the Junkyard Dog, and a loser must bow. Harley Race had this king gimmick, like kind of like what Booker T did in 2006. Um, and basically, Junkyard Dog didn't want to bow to him, and so this was just a very entertaining match, for say the least. Not a big fan of Fabulous Moolah there. Ew. Bobby Heenan being there, that was awesome. Bobby the Brain Heenan was practically the MVP of WrestleMania 3, if you ask me. He was basically the manager of half of these matches. Anyways, Hardy Race wins, but Junkyard Dog doesn't bow. He instead brawls with Hardy Race afterwards, and then he's the one that leaves standing. I don't know what it is with Junkyard Dog losing or winning by DQ and then standing tall, but he ain't no champion, so he was very entertaining. I mean, I'm still a little disappointed that he never got any major belts that I know of. The Dream Team, Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine, beating the Rogu brothers, Jaquel Rogu and Raymond Rogu. I got these guys' names. Yeah, if I'm being perfectly honest, solid match. The Dream Team was a solid team, and we proved it last review when they had the best match of the night. This was enjoyable. I can't really fault it. It does play a part in the next match, which we'll get to. Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis and a hair versus hair match. This was a good match. This was really good, very entertaining. Roddy Piper. Never thought Roddy Piper would work as a face, but he proved us wrong. Adrian Adonis loses. And they did a good job of building Adrian the Adonis, but not good enough to beat Roddy Piper. But this was good. I enjoyed this, and then when Adrian Adonis lost by submission, he didn't want to. He was willing to like take off, but then the Dream Team catches him, and then they help shave his head. Roddy Piper became the winner. It was fun, and at this point, I believe Roddy Piper retired. So this was gonna be his last match, and I think that was the selling point that people knew that he was gonna retire after this. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. So very entertaining stuff here. More entertaining stuff when we get Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation beating Tito Santana and the British Bulldogs. This was good. I really, really enjoyed this one. You literally have six workhorses in one match. Danny Davis is definitely the weaker of the bunch, but he was very entertaining too in this match. Bret Hart, we all know him. Jim Neidhart, Davey Boy, Dynamite Kid, Tito Santana. Oh my God, this is just top notch work. This I really, really enjoyed. So this was to me the best match so far. This again, give it up to tag team wrestling. It really felt like they just needed to add people to the card. Um, Shockingly enough, the tag team championships were not on the line at this WrestleMania, and that's unfortunate. But this I'm gonna be okay with because this was pretty good. Um, Butch Reed, um, who I known about, he did okay. I know Slick, he was very entertaining. Beating Coco Beware. This was just a simple squash match just to get people on the card, trying to push Butch Reed. Coco Beware. Let me just tell you, this was one of my favorite jobbers in the '90s. I didn't grow up watching wrestling until the 2010s ish. Um, Late 2000s, early 2010s. But Coco Beware was someone that I watched in the '90s, like when I would replay stuff. He was very entertaining. And I really, really enjoyed him. So kudos to that. And this was just a very fun match. But on to the match. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat beats Macho Man Randy Savage. You have George the Animal Steel, who lost to Savage last year with Miss Elizabeth on Randy Savage corner. This was gold. Hands down one of the greatest matches, the first ever 5-star match in WWF WWE history in my book. This was a top notch. When people talk about the greatest intercontinental championship matches, they go to this one for a reason. Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage just had infamous chemistry, and to this day people talk about it, and it's personally for me one of my favorite matches of all time. It's in my top 10, and that's saying something because this took place in 1987 and people still try to replicate this match, still try to be like this. And to top it off, it had a roll up victory. How many roll up victories um are considered classics like this one and maybe Hart and Bulldog? And I've seen people try to repeat those moves, but you can't. You gotta do your own thing. Like, I don't like when other matches try to replicate other matches, and this one does get replicated a lot for a reason. But when you're not your own thing, it's kind of embarrassing. And this was the one who basically put everything on top, like for professional wrestling. This is when people, while they were in love with the story, they were also in love with the wrestling, and this was the match to show you that. So kudos for this. This was one of the greatest matches of all time. I really enjoyed this one. Honky Tonk Man beats Jake Roberts. So this was just a filler. I mean, you can't really. It's really hard to follow Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage. Um, and I was kind of disappointed that Jake Roberts lost because he is one of my favorites. Honky Tonk Man winning, in hindsight, makes sense because he does eventually become the next IC champion, and he ends up being, at the time, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time until we get Gunta. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Oh, look, they're a tag team again. And they beat the Killer Bees by DQ. This was. Eh. I like Iron Sheik. I like Nikolai Volkov winning. Killer Bees. They were entertaining, but I mean, at this point, we're just waiting for the main event. I'm curious how the card would have looked like if we had Steamboat Savage and then Andre Hogan. I'm curious how that would have looked, but Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov, glad they're back. Glad they're back on the card. But yeah, they deserved. I personally think they should have had a WWE Tag Team Championship match just so I can have a little bit of care for some of these matches. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, the biggest WrestleMania main event up to this point, maybe of all time. No other match has had this big of a hype. The undefeatable Andre the Giant, who has been a babyface for almost his entire career, was in movies such as what was the name of that one? The Princess Bride. Anybody want a peanut? Um, he became famous. He basically was retired from wrestling, but he was not 100%. Vince McMahon was willing to pay his surgery just so he can do this match. Hulk Hogan being the unstoppable champion, so the unstoppable giant, the unstoppable champion, best friends, Kalash. Andre wanted the belt. It was like, can Andre win? Can Hogan lose? Um, and this was just perfectly built. This was not there to be a great wrestling match. This was to be a great moment, and that is what sold it, and that is what was well understood about this match. The whole match was, can Hogan body slam Andre, and he couldn't, and it was just tough for him. And it was like, wow, how is Hulk Hogan gonna surpass this? Eventually, Hogan finally body slams Andre, uh, gives him the leg drop, 1, 2, 3. I always find it funny because they go one, he barely picks up the leg, 2, 3, and then he just drops him. So like he was kind of late to pick up the leg for the pinfall, but it was still a great moment, a phenomenal night, and yeah, this was really fun. This was a really fun show. Um, Obviously, after a while, we get tired of Hogan standing tall, but we'll get to those when we get to those. Um, Again, like I said, this was a very fun show. Some duds of matches, so for that, I mean, the good outweighs the bad. If you really only focus on maybe like the good matches, the first match, Piper Adonis, Hart Foundation, Danny Davis, Hogan Andre, and of course Ricky and Savage. You know, that's 5 matches that you could watch. Some stuff you can move around. Some entertaining moments. I like I said, I like the Harley Race and Junkyard Dog moment. I was fan of watching some of these legends be on the card, so can't really fault it for that. Um, I'm gonna give it a A minus. Not a perfect show, but a good show nonetheless. I think it did um a good job of pushing through and making this the biggest night ever, and that was what it was important for it. So that was good for me. So I'm gonna give it an A minus. You should definitely watch this show. Maybe you guys enjoy some stuff more than I did, and maybe not, but I wouldn't recommend this one. This is the first A show, A minus, but first A show. Anyways, take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.